Okey, Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi. So hari ni kita live di studio JPPKK, Self Studio. Saya Akasha Arsyad selaku moderator pada pagi ni. Jadi untuk hari ni kita ada online coaching di mana peserta-peserta boleh ajukan soalan lah, kan. So bersama saya ialah Cik Reza selaku.
Hai.
Ya, apa khabar?
Khabar baik. I think ni kali ke berapa dah kita punya live stream ni?
Kali
Tiga
ketiga.
kan? Tiga.
Kali ketiga dah.
Okay.
So berturut-turut rasanya 3 hari kot daripada minggu lepas. And we have Mr. Vincent, our principal AI specialist from AWS Singapore. How are you, Vincent?
Great. Happy to be back with everyone. It was an exciting weekend. I look at the leaderboard since I woke up.
Alright. So before we begin, okay, let me just recap lah. So sebelum saya mula kepada online coaching ni, mungkin kita boleh recap sikit kita punya slide pada yang lepas. Okay. So seperti biasa saya akan promote dulu media sosial BIPD. So we have our Facebook, boleh log in, boleh share and like, and we have our TikTok at BIPD at POLYCC. Don't forget to follow lah, okay. And we have our YouTube lah, EduTV at POLYCC. So yang Reza, yang macam kita punya tutorial untuk login, especially untuk KIRO, workshop studio and AI League portal tu.
So kita ada potong-potong pada hari tu kita tunjuk video lah kan.
Kita ada letakkan dalam playlist tu. And also we have our chat group, one for lecturer and also for student. And also you guys can ask any question, if any problem, and we try to help lah. Okay. Jadi, the next one. Okay. So, tahniah dan terima kasih di atas kerjasama dan komitmen tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, di mana kita mendapat sambutan yang luar biasa, di mana kita dapat 1,299 pendaftaran kumpulan. 1,299 teams has registered, so about 3,000 packs lah, okay, is competing for the POLYCC Agentic AI League 2026, okay. So maybe the leaderboard I will leave to Mr. Reza lah kot. Okay. So yang paling penting adalah format nama kumpulan ni. So saya nampak ada kat leaderboard tu masih tidak follow group naming convention. Paling utama ialah kita nak identify lah supaya peserta pun tak keliru. Maksudnya kadang-kadang ada yang daripada politeknik dan juga college meeting menggunakan group name yang sama. So nak memastikan kita benar-benar sahih lah group tu, kita kena gunakan naming convention, iaitu nama kumpulan dan ditambah dengan nama politeknik ataupun nama sekatan politeknik dan juga college committee dan juga nombor group lah, so for easier reference.
Tapi Akasha kan soalan, kalau buat group pertama, buat round pertama hari tu dia dah guna satu nama, mungkin nama tu tak follow naming convention. Rasanya dia patut, saya rasa lah dia patut guna nama yang sama jugalah sebenarnya. Sebab nanti kita akan tambahkan dia punya nama tu kan.
Ya. So kena follow lah kan, supaya for easier reference. Kita pun nak tahu group mana yang tengah leading kan, ataupun dia orang pun nak tahu juga yang mana satu kan. Kalau guna yang sama,
kalau peserta Okay, kalau yang dah pernah main round yang pertama, dia dah guna nama sekian lah, contoh nama dia team A kan. Untuk round kedua walaupun team A tak follow, tak ikut format ni, sepatutnya dia kena guna nama yang sama juga. Team A juga.
Kena nama yang
Tapi
sama.
kalau untuk peserta yang baru, maksudnya mungkin dia terlepas round yang pertama ni. Dia nak start main round yang kedua kena follow nama format.
Saya faham sebab dia tak boleh dia tak boleh tukar
Sebab kita follow by team name.
Team name. That means we cannot change lah after they set the profile.
Kita kena guna nama yang sama lah.
Guna yang sama lah. Okay, never mind sebab at the back end I think Reza boleh track siapa. So siapa yang nak guna nama tu, so keep using that nama.
Tapi kalau yang peserta yang baru
kena follow lah.
Tapi ada juga, saya tengok dalam round yang pertama ni memang ada juga tim yang dah pakai nama convention yang betul macam ni lah. Tapi okay lah, which is betul. Tapi kalau yang dah salah tu, round kedua dah terpaksa lah guna nama yang sama juga lah.
Okay, alright. So, alright. Okay, kita pergi kat the next one. Okay, this is the garis masa lah. So lot of question yang tanya regarding the timeline. So we are in the number 2 lah, number 2. So number 2 online coaching. So this day. Then the next round pusingan 2 is going to be this coming weekend lah, from 31 Julai
Jumaat ni sampai hari Ahad juga.
Sampai Ahad, sampai 12:30 malam. Okay. So there's a typo there. Macam mana boleh ada typo ni? So nombor 3. So abaikan yang nombor 3 ni. Okay. So pusingan 3 14 sampai 16 Ogos dan pusingan 4 24 sampai 30 Ogos. Dan kita akan tamat pada 30 Ogos lah. 30 Ogos. So semua tamat. Dan kita akan buat pemilihan finalis pada 1 September. Okay. Jadi untuk pertandingan peringkat final, iaitu kita akan secara face to face di Shah Alam, Convention Center pada 14 September insya-Allah. So kita don't forget to lock the date lah. Okay, this is I think this thing Reza will cover lah.
Okay, boleh switch to my slide.
Okay, I'll switch to your okay. Alright.
Okay, baik. Jadi saya rasa dalam sepanjang weekend hari tu ada juga sebenarnya.
Dia remove ni. Dia terremove tadi, dia hilang tadi. Patut dia cakap hilang.
Suara tak dengar.
Sekarang tadi terhilang. Sekarang dengar lah, sekarang dengar.
Betul
Betul. Boleh ulang balik. Technical glitch.
Yes.
Okay.
Cut off for the last few minutes.
Okay. Alright, jadi untuk round yang pertama yang kita dah lalui hujung minggu baru ni, dia punya multiplier adalah time 1. Okay, Bila kita kata time 1 ni maksudnya dia punya points actually over, okay, dia punya point dia adalah setiap kali kita point dia over 1000. Maksudnya team yang pertama kalau dia dapat full marks, dia akan dapat dia akan dapat point 1000. Dan point kedua, round kedua akan dapat 2000, 3000 dan total semua sampai round keempat kalau dia dapat nombor 1 setiap kali, setiap round dia akan dapat 10,000 lah total points dekat sini. Jadi dia ada yang akan tanya, adakah siapa yang masuk round keempat ni dan dia kalau dia dapat nombor 1 dia akan layak ke top 5? Sebenarnya tak, dia tak memang ikut formula dia, memang tak. Sebab kalau dia dapat paling tinggi pun round yang pertama ni dan dia tak pernah buat round 1, 2, 3, maksimum point yang dia dapat cumalah 4,000 daripada total 10,000. Jadi kita kat sini kita nak fokus kepada consistency. Maksudnya kalau kita konsisten dapat top 5 round 1, 2, 3, 4 memang kita actually akan layak dan kita akan markah tu akan fair sebenarnya. Okay. Maksudnya kalau sesiapa yang dah ketinggalan round pertama, sebenarnya you all cuma kurang 1,000 daripada total possible point yang you all boleh dapat. Okay. Dan ada yang bertanya, macam mana kalau bila dah habis round keempat, kita tengok ada team yang markah sama. Okay, bila markah sama actually nanti kita akan tengok total raw game score. Maksudnya kan kalau kita submit tu kan, kita submit kita punya agent, kita ada markah paling tinggi saya rasa 15,000 lebih kan setiap round. Jadi for now kita akan tambah semua score 1, 2, 3, 4 dan tengok siapa yang paling tinggi. That one kalau point sama, kita akan tengok game score punya markah pula. Okay, so itu adalah condition je untuk kita punya point system ni. Jadi kita nak announce lah siapa pemenang round yang pertama.
Okay.
Jadi ini adalah pemenang untuk round yang pertama. Kita ada 500 pasukan yang berdaftar lah sebenarnya. Okay. Dan kalau saya tengok ni Kak Kasha top 5 ni actually dia punya difference sangat lah sikit.
Sikit je kan?
60 je perbezaan. Maksudnya sangat sengit
Memang pulun kan diorang ni.
Betul.
Pada Jumaat.
Betul. Dan kumpulan yang mendapat markah penuh untuk round pertama ni adalah AI Core PMJ. PMJ maksudnya Politeknik
Mersing Johor.
Mersing Johor. Okey, tahniah AI Core.
So PMJ ni is one of the largest participation lah. Maksudnya the highest participation lah. Maksudnya around 100.
So we have 100 teams.
They send 100 teams.
Okay.
So I think they are collaborate to each other so that
they have a bigger pool to brainstorm together.
Bigger, yeah.
Okay. So dekat sini nanti AI league point ni bila round yang kedua kita akan tambah lah. Contoh kalau round yang kedua nanti AI core dapat nombor 2. Okay, dan kita akan ambil point 998 times 2 tambah dengan dia punya point sekarang. So maksudnya dia akan bertambah. Okay, dan kita tengok bila round keempat nanti siapa yang actually paling tinggi lah. Kita ambil top 5 untuk pergi ke Shah Alam untuk bertanding secara face to face. Yang tu sangat mencabar lah kan kalau tengok balik Kasha kan. Sebab apa? Sebab you all dia akan ada masa sejam 2 jam saja untuk run dan test. Sekarang ni dia ada 72 jam untuk dia play eksperimen. Tapi bila live event nanti memang on the spot kena buat time tu.
Setting tu semua tools tu kena on the spot lah.
Kena buat on the spot. Jadi that's why kita sarankan kita ada share kat itu dalam group yang kena save dia punya tools yang strategi yang dia ada tu dia kena copy dan simpan.
Kita akan share lah, maksudnya mungkin ada email tu Vincent 10 question.
Alright,
10 question kan. So maybe after this Vincent can comment ataupun give some feedback lah on the question.
Okay.
That is the 10 question, the 10 most question that being asked in the group. Why cannot submit, why cannot this. So I think after this we have a session with Mr. Vincent. So I'm sure Mr. Vincent will try to help
cover that.
To cover that lah.
Okay. Jadi kita juga akan bagi full list of list peserta. Sekejap saya tukar, saya pergi share.
Peserta ni rasanya kalau sebab pagi tadi saya tengok saya boleh access lagi leaderboard tu. Not sure.
Boleh submit ke tak?
Tapi submit tak boleh, just to see the leaderboard lah.
So jadi dekat sini kita ada full scoring.
Tak share.
Kena add to scene.
Add to scene.
Yeah.
Tak function lah today.
Senin. Monday blues.
Monday.
Okay, so kat sini kita ada full list pemenang daripada nombor 1 sampailah nombor. Kita nak scroll ke, tunjuk ke team mana last? Tak apalah.
Kita tengok yang top 10 je lah kot.
Top 10 je lah, top 100 lah, kita tunjuk top 100. Jadi top 100 sebenarnya dia punya skor dia lebih kurang dalam 6,000 lebih, tapi bila masuk ke top 40, top 50 dah sampai 10,000. Dan top 15,000 punya scoring ni sebenarnya top 15 lah. 15 orang sebenarnya team yang ada skor 15,000, 16 orang. So sangat sengit lah saya rasa. Maksudnya kalau setiap pasukan ni dia kena konsisten round pertama, kedua, ketiga, keempat. Kalau dia kita panggil, kalau dia flop satu round je, mungkin dia akan drag. Dia akan turun bawah ranking dia. So memang sangat sengit lah persaingan untuk round pertama ni. Kita akan share full Excel ni nanti.
Share in the 2 chat group, one for lecturers and also for student lah. Okay, jadi tu saja kita nak cover untuk result, dan kita akan ada round yang kedua iaitu hari Jumaat ni bermula 12:30 malam. Maksudnya kita hari tu kita macam start hari Jumaat malam lah, macam dah lambat sikit, ada technical issue. Kita aware ada technical issue on sign in KIRO tu. Kita akan cover that maybe hujung-hujung sikit nanti. Tapi untuk round kedua ni memang peserta ada full 72 jam daripada Jumaat tengah malam. Maksudnya dia, kalau dia tak nak kacau weekend, dia boleh buat waktu hari Jumaat lah. Okay. Lepas tu maybe hari Ahad dia tengok balik, tengok ada orang potong ke belum dia kan. Selalunya macam tu. Kan. Okay. Lepas tu memang ada full 72 jam untuk bereksperimen untuk round yang kedua. Dan round kedua kena ingat, round kedua dia multiplier dia 2 kan. Dia punya skor dia, maksudnya skor dekat round kedua lebih besar daripada skor round yang pertama. So kena serius sikit lah.
Semakin serius lah, setiap round dia kena semakin serius.
Kalau minggu ni, hari tu sebab kita pun faham semua ada isu.
Ada yang balik kampung ke, dah beli tiket bas kan?
Beli tiket bas, nak pergi kenduri ke. Okay. Jadi mungkin ada tak plan lagi dia punya timing tu. So maybe for this weekend kita boleh strategize lah. Maksudnya kita boleh plan apa kita nak ni, nak berlawan. So mungkin insyaAllah kita boleh ni lah. Jadi top 10 lah.
Okay. So another important message yang saya nak tekankan kat sini adalah, kalau you all terlepas round pertama, sebenarnya you all rugi sikit je baru. Masih boleh buat comeback lah sebenarnya.
Baik Cik Rizal.
Okay. Jadi I think that's all untuk my slide. Then I will pass to Vincent to do his presentation about coaching lah. So I think Vincent have something to share with us today.
Yeah. Alright.
Okay, maybe let me share my screen. Give me a second. Okay, so my side will be probably going through the questions. Put them into a slide so it's easier to go through them. So maybe let me just run this. Okay, can you see my screen coming up?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we go through the questions, right? So first is that, like, why are the scores different during testing and submission? So one main thing is that so this will, to kind of recap the questions, right? So generally, when you are playing the map and when you are submitting it to a leaderboard, remember we talked about, if you were there during the last Friday and also the Monday kickoff. So we talk about how they have to prevent people from hard coding the questions. The idea is that the map is going to be the same. So you have the same map. Just give me a second. Let me close the my door so it's a bit more less noisy here. For some background sound. Okay. So I was saying that generally you have testing map and then you have the submission, the evaluation map. So the map is going to be the same for good reason, so that whatever that you have trained, the tools and all, it's going to be the same. But what you should expect is that the questions, while the map is the same, the tile is the same, the nature of the challenge is the same, you will not be seeing the exact same question. So for example, if you look on the top right hand side, there is the violet flower, and that is the guardrails question. So the guardrails. So if when you submit to when you're doing the testing, you'll be able to see every single question, right? You know exactly what is the question that is posted to your hero, to your Sparta character, and so essentially you see every single question. But when you submit to evaluation map, for good reason, they are not exactly the same. So it's a bit the best analogy you can think of it is like the left hand side is like taking a mock paper, a test paper, right, before your exam. But on the right hand side there, the format is the same, but the exact question is going to be different. But even though the nature is the same, right? So that's to answer the part on like, oh, why is the scores different during testing and submission? So if you are overfitting your answer too much to the question, you expect that your evaluation result is probably going to be much more weaker. But on the other hand, the teams that are scoring like 15,000, 14,000, generally these teams probably they have created tools that is a lot more adaptive, right? So the questions come, but they'll be able to adapt to the way the different questions might be asked, or doing web search, for example. For example, there are questions about that requires you to go into a website to pull a result. So if you hard code your answer to say, okay, this web search tool, you go to this specific website. Then while you can answer the question in the test map, you can imagine doing the evaluation map. If the question is asked to do a web search, but it's now going to a totally different website. But if you were to overfit, and if you were to hard code your browser tool to access a specific website, then your agent will not be able to answer. So that is kind of like the straightforward answer to answering why your uploader score decrease. Even in some cases it might even increase, but most of the time, generally your uploader score will be weaker than your test score, because again, test score is transparent, right? You can see the exact test paper, whereas the evaluation map is black box to you. Although of course the key thing to remember is that the game map and the evaluation map, the grid is the same, the tiles is the same, the challenges is the same, the number of them is the same, the nature of them is the same. The only thing that is not the same is that the exact question that will be sent to your hero, it will be different. So this will translate to a real world setting. When you create agents, you have test questions, right, that you use to build your agents. But when you put it out into production, you never know what kind of questions your user is going to ask your agent. You never know how your end user is going to be prompting your agent, right? Because this is real world situation. So similarly, in a sense, this AI Lake gives you that kind of flavor where you have a test map and then you have an evaluation map. All right. So I hope that answers that. Yes. So yeah. Then if it's clear, I will go on to the next question. Feel free to send in. If it's not clear, feel free to send in the text messages into the Slack, into the chat. Happy to dive deep on them during this cleaning as we go along. All right. But I'll just go through the 10 questions that's been asked earlier. Now, the other one is around here. Okay, so now there's another question is that why the submit button is gray out? So this can happen generally for two reasons. One, the most often one is that we see that for some reason your browser, because again this is we are creating a wrapper around the AI services in AWS, right? So you're not going to AWS agent call, you're not going to the AWS console as per before. Whereas you're creating an agent, everything is via the AI Lake portal. There is a wrapper around the complexity of the AWS console. So in this case, two reasons. One, it could be your browser, for whatever reason, it could be blocking cookies, cache, the rendering. So one thing that you want to try is that if you bump into this issue, in fact, this is going to be the same for some of the other questions as well. you want to try a different browser, make sure that you have cookies enabled, you allowed JavaScript rendering. If you block things like JavaScript, cookies, and things like that, you might find issues in like the browser, because this is client side, right? This might have issue rendering the screen, or to block the button that you saw earlier. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, it could be this happens rarely, but we saw that happening a few times for a few people during the last weekend, and we have to resolve that. It's basically, for some reason, your account is when you submit the agent, somehow there is that your login, it gets stuck. So the way to resolve it is that you do a logout. So you can log out of your user. So maybe let me share my screen. So as a user, you can actually log out. So over here, you can actually sign out, right? Sign out the event, and then you sign back in. So we've seen a few cases whereby after they sign out, and then after you sign in, this issue is resolved. So you can try either of these approach. Right? Number one, check the browser, see if you try a different browser. If you're using Chrome, try Firefox. If you're using Firefox, try Chrome. Usually that will help. Secondly, if it doesn't help, you can try signing out and signing in, and then see if that works. Of course, if it doesn't work for both cases, which is really rare, then that's where you bring it out to the team, to the support channel, and then we are happy to look at that. But from last weekend, what we saw, these two is generally will solve most of the problem, right? Okay, let's continue on. So we talk about the gray button. Now the next thing is this one. So the character is not moving, even though the pathfinding is moving. So this is really interesting. Apparently, so you can see on the logs over there. So apparently you can see that the Spartan is tackling the challenges, and but somehow it's not moving. But actually, when I look at this screenshot, it is moving. So I'm not sure what it means. Because if you look at this, the character did move over to the end. So I'm not sure for this user what is your issue. But let's say if it's a rare case, you talk about you have your Spartan is tackling the challenges, but somehow it's not moving, right? So this again, it tells that there's an issue with the game browser rendering. So your Spartan is actually working, because if the moment you can see the logs running, that means that if you can see this site, if question is being asked, your agent is answering, and you see like green, red, that means your agent is doing things like that, right? So that means there's nothing wrong with your agent. The only issue is that there's probably something wrong with how your again, the game renderer, right? I think in this case, the game UI, it's updating your character. So again, for this case, I would say you want to try a different browser. Make sure your JavaScript is enabled. There's not blocking AI Lake website to make sure that everything is running fine. Because ultimately, this is there's a lot of JavaScript that's happening in the rendering of the tiles of the game movement. So you want to make sure that is not blocked. All right. And yes, yeah. So if that's the case, and then of course, yes. And in this case, I think for this question, it seems like submitting to a leaderboard is not a problem, but it's more like the character is not moving, right? So this is the way to resolve that. Okay, the next one. Okay, the agents. Why are the agents not loading properly? Okay, this one is interesting. Maybe let me explain it. Right. Let's say if you see a case where your agents is not loading properly. Okay, so there could be a few reasons, right? So first thing first is that you want to first identify, does this happen during the first time you open the account? Okay, so let me phrase that again. Does this happen the first time your account is open? That means when you log into the account and immediately you see this error. Because remember, every account comes with orchestrator agent by default, and it comes with a sub agent, right? So every account, it comes with a default working agent already. So if you log into your account for the first time and you don't see anything that's loading, so that can mean two things, right? So again, number one, you want to check your browser. Number two, you want to check your login. Third thing that it could happen, very, very rare, is that there's something wrong with your account, right? So we could actually issue you a new account if we kind of like identify that the first two based on your account, even we ourselves, we log in, there's a problem. That means there's something obviously wrong with the account. We need to give you a new account, right? So the good thing is that we have prepared thousands of accounts. So if there's an account that failed, we have a backup account that we can issue to you, right? But again, you want to always try making sure that you exhaust the browser method first, and you exhaust the login method first. Now, this in the other case whereby you have that means when you go in, you have a working agent and you were able to submit to a leaderboard, you were submitting five submissions, 10 submissions, everything is working well. And then just suddenly you run into this error, failure to load agents. So this obviously means one thing, right? First thing first, you have a working account. So the problem is not with the account, but there's an issue with how your browser is not able to load your agents that is working in the account, right? So in that case, same thing, you want to try, it's almost like, think of it like the standard method, right? Try a different browser. There could be some browser setting that again blocked your agent halfway, which is strange, given that it works at the start and then it fails at the end. But we've seen that happen before. Secondly, again, you just want to try to do a logout, do a login. Just sometimes just unstuck. The way that you might have some browser caching that is just blocking the loading of agents. So first, these two methods will be the first thing to try. Again, if it doesn't work, then this will be something that you're bringing up to the admin team, and then we'll look at it. But generally, if it's the first time you go in, straight away agent's not working, you try different methods, nothing works, and different browser logout login is still the same. Probably something is wrong with the account, and we can basically just give you a new account. We have a lot of backup accounts, so no problem with that. Second option is that you have the again, you were able to submit earlier. Obviously, you have a working account. You submitted 5 agents, 10 agents, all is going well, and just suddenly you just get stuck with this. So this normally means that usually it's a browser-based issue, there's a cache issue that we can resolve, and so you want to try that method first. And if it still doesn't work, then we'll explore looking at going to the account to see what happened and see how we can resolve from there. All right. So that's to answer that question. Now let's go on to the next one. A code editor is not loading properly. All right. So this is actually very similar to the first one, right? So when you're provisioned with an account, two things happen. First, you have a basic agent core setup that is already deployed into your account, and there is a Visual Studio Code Editor that's deployed into your account. So these two things, generally, out of the thousands of accounts that you deploy, it should be working well, right? But in some cases, let's say you open out your code editor, but for whatever reason you cannot open it. You see this thing. This can mean, okay, from my experience after running this with like thousands of participants, even before POLYCC Air League across the world, what we see generally is got to do with browser, because here you're actually trying to load an entire code editor into your browser, and you also want to give it some time to wait. So if you're seeing this problem, again, you want to try a different browser and just see if it works. Make sure that you allow code editor to be rendered. So that is when the first time you try to open it, try to see if that happens. But if for whatever reason you try different editor, you try different browser, and still you are getting the same problem, there's a chance where it could be that when your account is provisioned, when the Visual Code Editor is installed automatically into your account, for some reason it wasn't installed correctly, right? So in that case, again, the good news is that we have backup accounts. So what we will normally do is that we just give you another account that you can take on, so that you can you'll be able to continue the competition, right? So that is to answer that. But you always want to try using a different browser first, especially when it comes to code editor, to make sure that it's working, and also just make sure that you're not in a place where, like, I don't know if you're doing internship or things like that. You want to make sure that you want to try using it a much more permissive Wi-Fi, so that nothing is blocking the rendering of the code editor, like your home Wi-Fi, etc. That it works. All right. So Wi-Fi is something that very rare, but we've seen it happening when some Wi-Fi it blocks certain websites, things like rendering of the code editor in the browser, in the machine. So it's not with the problem is not with the machine. The problem is with how the Wi-Fi that you're connected to, right? So that's another thing that you can explore before you escalate the issues upwards. Okay, Now this one, how can this pathfinding error be solved? All right, so I think this problem is regarding my understanding when we spoke to some of the team members, you have multiple pathfinding that created. Now, how you have multiple pathfinding, it could happen multiple ways. You actually created multiple pathfinding, or for some weird reason, when you go inside, you only have you immediately have two pathfinding, right? So things like that. So one, you want to check. Okay, first thing first, if you got two pathfinding, my immediate solution is that you can actually just delete off one of the pathfinding, right? Because remember, every tool here you can create two, but you can also delete two, right? So if it really does you have two pathfinding, the easiest way is just go and delete away one of them, and then that'll solve the problem. So that's number one. And also, even down to that, when you are at the when you configure your agent, even you got multiple pathfinding, ultimately you can create 10, 20, 50 tools, right? But your tools will only be used when they are configured, when it's configured by a sub agent to equip them. So your tools is like your sword, your shield, your axe, right? So until you configure your sub agent, you can see in this case, this sub agent here is using this particular tool, right? So you could have multiple tools, but if your agent is not using the multiple tools, chances are there's going to be no issue. So actually, you could just leave it as it is as well. So again, in that case, I would say it's not an issue. But if you find that to be an eyesore, of course, you can just delete this away. But if the problem is another thing, whereby you tried pathfinding, and we've seen that happen to a few users, where your pathfinding just suddenly just break, it just stopped working, right? Now, in that case, the main thing is that there's probably something wrong with your pathfinding code. Right? Remember, your agent actually, first thing first, before it solves any problem, it needs to be able to pathfind. That's the first thing that is caught when the map is loaded over here. The first thing that will happen is that the map will be sent to your hero, and your hero need to plot a pathfinding path to your treasure chest. This is before anything happens. So if your pathfinding tool breaks, it's not working, for whatever reason, there's error, there's issue, because after you did changes and things like that, then your character could either not move, or it could even go into the wall like you saw during the demo, right? So when that happens, one thing that you want to try is that you want to restore. So the good thing is that every time you submit a model agent into a leaderboard, we actually version them, every single version. So every time you submit agent to a leaderboard, you can actually click on it. So let's say if I go back to that, if I go to my over here, my agent, so I go into agent library. So if you click on agent library, you see that there's multiple agent version, right? So the first one is the one that's default. So when you go into, let's say if you want to go into, and you can see which version gives you what score, correct? So one, you can actually go into here. You can actually see, of course, you can see your version, right? And the score that it netted you. And you can, if you click on the play button, what's going to happen is that it will actually restore your agent back to that particular setting. So in this case, you can actually do versioning. So one thing is that I will say, if let's say you're at version 5, and version 5 is working well, your pathfinding is going great, and then you did some changes to your pathfinding, and then now you're at version 6. And then for whatever reason, you think just screwed, right? And then your pathfinding is just not getting to where it's supposed to go, and you don't know how to go back. So one way that you can do is that you can actually, again, go to your agent library, pick the version that you are most reliable, that actually gives you a score. Click on that, and then you want to click on the play button. When you click on the play button and then click on continue, what's going to happen is that it will return your agent call runtime, your code, your tool editor, everything. It's like a snapshot in time back to that exact time when you submitted the model. So you can actually do that. This is one of the strategy, and also a pro tip to encourage experimentation. So if you're concerned, hey Vincent, what if how I want to experiment, but I don't want to. How do I make sure that I experiment safely, right? So one of the powerful thing about using versioning is that you can use that as like your harness, right? You try different version, you keep on going. If it improves, then you continue the version from there, right? But if your version deteriorates, you can go back to an older version that is more reliable, and then after that you continue, then you make changes from there, and then go on to a new version. So that's a way that you can actually use to improve your score, which I'm sure for the top teams, I'm sure this is already a strategy that many of the top teams has already adopted. And for the newer teams who have just joined the competition, this is something that you can explore in the next round, in round 2. All right. Okay. Now going down to, there's 2 more questions, and this other 2 questions doesn't have a screenshot. Maybe let's take a look at it. Right. So now, how can one email ID be used on multiple devices? The answer is yes. You can actually, I think you can actually, I don't think there's, okay, I need to confirm that, but that technically you should be able to log in to multiple environment using one email ID. What you cannot do is that you cannot use one email ID to claim multiple account, right? So remember, when you go into builder ID, and then you have the account. Sorry, when you go into Workshop Studio, it gives you the account authorization code as well as the grant, right? So that's what you can use for your builder ID to log in. So once you log in, your builder ID is bind to that account already, right? So, but you can use that to log into multiple devices. You can log into technically your Mac, Windows, multiple people. It should be able to support multi-session, right? Now, what you cannot do is that you cannot use one email ID to claim one builder ID to claim multiple accounts. So what I'm trying to say is that if you were to log in, if I use, say, email ID 1, Vincent O, to log in to claim account A, and then I log in, I do a few things, and then I continue. And then somebody else use that same builder ID and to claim another account. What's going to happen is that you see that there'll be an error, because to prevent cheating and spamming, one email ID should only be bind to one account, right? So because we provision just nice the right amount, we have some buffer, but generally every team should have one account. The only exception is that if your account is not working, there's a problem, then we will give you a new account, right? And then for that, we will work with you to register to use a different builder ID. But by default, you should be using one builder ID for one account. And of course, but in that regard, you can log into multiple different devices, even different browsers are using that. Okay, so that's number 1. Can I consider this as how to document and use it for the next round? Do you have any suggestion for template? Okay, this part here is not that clear. Maybe Reza, do you have a bit more context on this one?
So basically, yeah. So I think this question related to whatever that they have configured as a tools, right? In the round 1 event, it won't be carried over to the round 2, right?
No.
So is there any tips? What are the other important things they can carry over, which is system prompt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question. Right now, the 2 things that you can take over, yes, because the idea is that we have is designed purposely, is such that every new competition is supposed to be like a fair state. But of course, you can play smart, right? There are certain things that, while the map is going to be different, there could be certain things that you might want to reuse from your experience. So one thing is that you can do, again, we don't automatically copy it for you. This is up to your own discretion, because some teams you want to start from scratch. So we don't want to dictate that. What you want to bring over, in fact, the only things that you can bring over is that you can carry over your system prompt. So again, because system prompt is just a piece of text, right? So you could actually copy and paste your system prompt and just put it in a Word document. This will be the easiest way. Model is always fixed, right? We are using Haiku, so that's quite fixed. But for system prompt, you can copy that. Again, it's not like you have 100 agents. You probably have one supervisor agent, and for most of you have a few sub agents, maybe 2 or 3. In some cases, you might have 5. So you just need to it's probably take you less than 30 seconds, under a minute. You can copy and paste the system prompt into one place. So that's number 1. And number 2 is going to be the code editor, which is the tools. So the tools is where, so if you have 2 tools, generally every tool, if you think about it, is basically just a Lambda function, right? It's just a Lambda file. So what you want to do is that you want to, again, go into the code editor, and then what you want is to just copy that entire code, right? The path, in this case, it could be a pathfinding code, it could be a web search code, it could be something else, and copy that and just again paste it in. For that, you want to have one file for each of your lambda function. Copy and paste that into each of them. And then essentially, when you go on to the new environment, when round 2 starts, essentially your system prompt, you can just copy and paste it, the ones that you want to reuse. And the tools, when you create your new editor, remember when you go into your code editor, you just give you a blank file, right? With a simple hello world handler. You can just override that with your with your Node.js code or the Python code, which is in a single file, and just override it, and then basically deploy that, and then you have your the artifacts from the earlier round that you can reuse already. So generally in competitions, globally, locally, that's what people do, right? You probably don't want to reuse every single thing because every round there's going to be some nuances. But of course, I would say, honestly speaking, there would be some things that will be useful to reuse, or even just for context, like your system prompt, etc. So you want to keep them. You could actually keep them, but it will not be in a case where there's any template, because again, system prompt is just a text file, right? If you copy and paste the whole thing, basically you don't need a template. And the code editor, again, because it's not like every lambda function is just one single file, generally speaking, unless you have helper functions. But generally speaking, you can have it in one single file. So in that case, again, you don't really need a template, right? You can just paste it in, and then it's done. In some of your cases, you might have created your lambda function with multiple files to constitute to one single lambda function. Then in that case, you have to do a bit more work to copy multiple files out. But for most of your case, probably yours is just one single file, especially if you're using KIRO, you're using AI assistant to write your codecs or clock code or KIRO to basically write your code chunk, right? So probably your lambda function is just one single file. So it's quite straightforward in that case. 5 tools, 5 files, and you can just copy and paste them over based on what you need. All right. So I think that basically kind of answer the questions coming from the top 10 that we have.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a question from the chat box. Maybe Mr. Lukman
can click on the output
can click
response Kamas277. Yeah, ensure that question.
Yeah. Is the output response
Token, is it? By Kamas277. Is that the question that we want? Is the output? Oh, okay, I saw that. Is the output response token will be used? Yes, right, 100%. The output response token will be used to effect the final score. So ultimately we look at so what we do is that we actually instrument we actually trace your agent movement from the start all the way to the end, from pathfinding, tackling challenges, answering questions, all the way until it reaches the 5 minutes is up or it reaches the treasure chest. So every single token that generated will be tallied, and then based on the amount of token that generated, we will then say, okay, we'll give you bonus points based on the lesser amount of token that you use. Now, so how do you reduce the token use? There's a lot of strategy. Number one, of course, first thing first, of course, will be your system prompt, right? Your system prompt, how you instruct the agent to answer the question, right? Because ultimately the system prompt basically decides how your agent thinks. So you can tell your agent to be more systematic, use less words to answer the same thing. Remember, one thing is that when you're doing the question and answering to your agent, if you think about the scoring, if I can flash that back again, I think I have that. Let me just flash that up, the judging criteria. Okay, let me just share my screen again. I think this is good to show as a pro tip, right? So you remember this over here. So this is the AI as a judge. So you think about it again, the token is basically coming from your agent response, right? So let's say that there could be a question that say, hey, can you tell me who is the winner of World Cup 2026? So obviously we know that the answer is Spain, right? So now, but of course there's a lot of ways that you can answer that is Spain. You can say that, the winner is Spain. You can say that the winner is Spain, and they score 1-0 and give a lot of extra stuff, right? Or you can just give a short answer. So the good thing is that for AI as a judge, it's not looking at deterministic answer where you have to answer exactly to a certain word. It's just like it's marking it based on your semantic accuracy. So as long as you mention, in this case, who is the winner of the champion of, in this case, World Cup 2026, and you answer Spain, even if it's one word, you get an answer because you did answer the question correctly, right? And in this case, one word would be better than using 50 words to this, than going on to become like a commentary to talk about what actually happened during that 1-0 rundown, right? So this is one way. Now that normally happens from, of course, your agent response. So, but sometimes, of course, you want to be careful. In certain questions, depending on if you look at test questions, some questions just by giving one word answer, you answer the question. But some questions, it might be a bit more broad. So where you might need to answer in a phrase or in a sentence. So then you might not want to oversimplify. So again, this is where you go back to your agentic harness, your prompt, how you want to guide the agent in his thinking. Now, the second thing is around, if I can stop sharing, the other thing is around, of course, the tooling. A big part is your agent is going to be using tooling, is going to be using reasoning. So again, but how he reasons, how many times, how he reasons, how much he thinks. It also is up to how your system prompt also have a big part, and also your toolings as well. So this is where, if you think about it, you want to control how that happens to reduce the token being used. All right. So that's to answer the first question. The second one, we are mainly facing the issue on round 1 for web search challenge. The sub-agent that we create always mention that the website cannot be reached over several times of Python code changing. Okay, so there's a few reasons. One is that I will first look at, so the good thing is that when you think about the tool, first you want to check is your tool being triggered, correct? So if your tool is being triggered, that's a good thing. The moment your tool is being triggered, you're going down a deterministic path already. Now the next thing is, okay, is the tool created correctly? Now there's a lot of ways that you can do a web search. If you think about it, there's a lot of libraries. Now, of course, I cannot give you the answer, but there's a lot of libraries out there. Python libraries, Node.js libraries. There's even even with AWS native services, agent call libraries, you can actually do a web search, right? But now the thing is that whether the website can be reached, then that's another. It could be that, again, of course, we have seen, as you see from the leaderboard, everyone was able to, the ones who got into the top, the more than 12,000, 13,000, most of them, they are probably have that answered already, right? And so the problem is not with the website itself, because the same question is sent to everybody, right? It's not like some people get a certain website and then some people get another website. Everyone has the same website, right? If the question is about going to this particular site, this will be the same for everybody. So I would say you want to investigate the tool, and even maybe going down into the logs, because again, you might be using AI to write the tool. So there could be a case that your AI have an issue when you wrote the tool, right? So you want to check that. For those who are a bit more technical, you can even go down into your CloudWatch logs. Remember, you have access to an AWS account. By right, you don't have to go down into the account, right? But you could actually go into the account. You can actually go into the CloudWatch logs and look at the Lambda logs and see, hey, what's happening? What's wrong with my Lambda functions? So that it could be there's an error with that. Maybe give you an example, right? Maybe your Lambda is calling a AWS native browser tool, but you never give a Lambda function the permission to talk to this, to use this browser tool, and it can block you from accessing that. There's one possible path actually. So there's a lot of different paths, which again you want to confirm. But generally, this means that the problem, if your tool is being caught, that means the problem is not with your agent already. The problem is with the tool itself. So you want to check that, right? Okay, now let's continue on. They have higher token, they still get more coins. How is that possible? They have higher token, they still get more coins. It can happen. So one thing is that maybe they use a reinforcement learning model, because remember there's multiple ways that you can get more points, right? So also your life, the number of life that you have left, it also contribute to more coins as well. So if you're down with 1 life as compared to you're down with 5 life, I think every life it gives you an additional, if I'm not wrong, about 500 points, right? So again, so life is one thing. Second thing is that if you actually use a reinforcement learning model, you actually fine-tune a model, and one of your sub-agents actually uses that model, you are actually rewarded with a bit of bonus points, bonus coins. So remember, token is not just coming only from, coins is not just coming from token alone. It's not just coming from challenges alone. There are a few other small nuances that can add up to more coins. Lives, for example, the amount of time left. I think that if I'm not wrong, that is also one bonus point. The number of time that you have left, how fast you complete the challenges. That's that. And also, of course, if you actually did train a reinforcement model and if you used it somewhere, so that could actually give you additional points as well. Can use different CLIs such as codecs? Yes, you can. Right? The short answer is yes. The thing is that codecs and KIRO, both of them, the good thing is KIRO and codecs both have access to generally the latest model. So KIRO, the idea is that we have purchased it for every, or rather make it with POLYCC sponsorship, we make it available to every single team, and you can go crazy on that. So with codecs, the short answer is you can. It's just that you have to probably use your own license, your own other means. But the answer is yes. You can use any other tool. You're not restricted to using KIRO. Okay. Are we allowed to use custom model? Yes. All right. So you can use Quen3 0.6b model. That is for if you are going to go into reinforcement tuning, leveraging the experience you have from the last 2 years, and you do get a little bit of bonus points if you go into that. But one thing is that, again, while you're allowed to use the custom model, it's not trivial to fine-tune a model. And given that we are making the challenge a bit more exciting, the previous round you have like 2 months to just fine-tune a model, right? But in this case, now you're doing agents, you're doing tools, and then you are doing models, and you only got 3 days. Remember, the idea is that we are compressing the time to really make it much more challenging, right? So you can use custom model, but you want to, again, that's where team concept comes in. There could be a few people just doing the agent, building the tools, and then you could have another team member going to the AWS account, fine-tuning models. That's actually how you can divide and conquer the work. And from there, do more experimentation, right? It doesn't have to be like sequential or one person do and everybody else wait. You can actually harness the team member to do different things. But of course, given that custom model requires a bit more technical skills, you want to have someone that's a bit more experienced to do that. Okay. There's a question from Pico, which I don't understand because it's in Melayu. Maybe Reza, you want to answer that from Pico K?
Oh, yeah. So basically, this is basically the Pickles K saying a tips. We do have all the game guides and tutorial inside the workshop studio, and also inside the AI League website, we have a game guide section. So maybe I can share some of the tips also. Right? What you can do is you can create a one KIRO folder, and then you copy all this information as a context, you save in the text file. And then whenever you try to develop the tools, you can use this game guide, and KIRO will understand the game guide, how to get the highest score lah. So basically that's the tips you can read from AI Workshop Studio, and also from the in-game game tip section. I think there is one question at the top saying about KIRO credit, will it get reset or not? So for KIRO credits, you get 10k 10,000 credits untuk KIRO. So this credit akan bertahan selama sebulan, will last you for every month, and you will notice the first day of August later, you will get reset. So I don't think you will deplete the credit kan. 10,000 tu banyak, of course takkan habis for this AI League saja. Yeah, so please use KIRO to you can use KIRO CLI. So if you remember dalam tools creation kan, tools editor tu kan kita ada CLI. Actually you can install also KIRO CLI inside the terminal, and then actually KIRO can directly understand your source code, so you tak payah copy paste. So that's another tips that you can do lah. Yeah.
Just to call the 10,000 KIRO credit, we actually benching in that way such that you have, is generally that the amount of credits you have, like how an actual software engineer in the likes of like Uber, Grab, the amount of tokens people uses in the industry. So it's probably going to be very hard and close to impossible to use up the full 10,000. If you are and you need more if you need more credits, again, maybe you can reach out. But it's gonna be interesting to find if there's anybody can actually hit that 10,000 limit.
Yeah.
This is the amount that many, even in the industry, are professional software engineer, they don't even hit that limit. We're working on production code day to day. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, Vincent, there is one more question, maybe that's not in the list. He says that he never configure any web search tool, right? But his supervisor agent actually can make a call to the web. How is that possible?
He never configure any. Shouldn't be possible. This one we need a deep dive, because by default the idea is that if you think about it, supervisor agent is basically an agent running inside agent call runtime, and he have no access to any tools, zero, right? So by right, you shouldn't have access to unless they make the supervisor agent, they give it a special prompt that they can, I don't know, this is a bit more hardcore, but because we're using Haiku, right? So it's probably hard. With models like Fable 5, it might be possible where you get the supervisor agent to create tools on the spot. So we see that happening as well. That means you ask the agent, so you never give the agent any tool, but you tell the agent, hey, I want to do this. And if you need to create a tool to do something, you can do it on the spot within the session. But with the model being Haiku, it's going to be ultra unlikely, because Haiku is not a Mythos class. We call it a Mythos class model, like K3, Fable 5, GPT. Those are Mythos class model where they can create their own schools on the spot. We call it also super agent. But with Haiku, a much more smaller model, that is ultra unlikely. If it actually happens, we'll be happy to find out more. But a bit hard to. We need to look at what actually happened. But from logically speaking, it shouldn't be possible. Yeah.
So there is one question: why when the training result is live is 5/5, but after submit to the scoreboard it becomes 4/5?
Yep. So we answered that question already. Your test map is different from your evaluation map, so you cannot don't whatever. When you submit it when you submit your agent to the leaderboard, you are going into a same dungeon, right? Same map, same type of challenges, but the questions will be different. That means that your scores won't be the same. Just because you score full on the test map doesn't mean that you score full on the evaluation map. So this is where it depends on how well you generalize your agent to be able to answer different questions. But what you should expect is that the type of questions is the same. The dungeon map is the same. So you don't have to create different pathfinding for the map is going to be the same, right? But the questions might be asked differently. So again, a question, for example, it could be asked, hey, what is the World Cup score for 2026, right? And then of course you should answer in your test map, you should answer Spain. But in your evaluation map, it could ask, oh, what is the World Cup score in 1962? Different, right? Then you need to go to Wikipedia, you need to go to some other historical site to pull the data. So just because you can answer 2026 World Cup score doesn't mean that your agent can answer 1962 World Cup score. Or they ask, which year where World Cup was skipped? That kind of a thing. So that's to answer the reason why that essentially you should expect that it's a different set of exam paper, right? When you submit to the scoreboard. Yeah.
Okay. Another question, I think. But I think that's all. I think we have covered all question Q&A. But yeah, feel free to post in the chat or Telegram group that we have. Saya dan Akasha maybe boleh tolong juga menjawab lah soalan. Okay, so thanks Vincent for sharing your thoughts and also answering the questions. Okay, so sekarang I will talk about the expectations for the upcoming days, and I will moving towards the round 2. So nanti saya akan share untuk round 2 kita akan pakai juga KIRO login yang sama. Maksudnya kalau you all dah berjaya login KIRO untuk round pertama, dan round kedua basically tak perlu buat apa-apa. Subscription tu akan kekal dengan dengan peserta sampailah hujung bulan depan.
Email ID
email yang sama, cara login yang sama. Untuk yang masih belum berjaya login KIRO, nanti kita akan share jugalah video macam mana nak login. Please masuklah, boleh. Kalau siapa yang ada masalah nak login KIRO, sila bagi tahu dekat Syara ataupun bagi tahu dekat team kat dalam Telegram ataupun dalam WhatsApp. Kita akan tolong bantu macam mana nak login ke KIRO. Sebab KIRO ni memang kita dah berikan secara free pada peserta dan actually memang sangat bagus lah. Bukannya sekadar untuk AI leading saja. Kalau peserta nak guna KIRO untuk buat assignment ke, nak buat slide ke, saya pun sekarang kalau nak buat PowerPoint slide, saya suruh KIRO buat je. Kalau tengok slide-slide yang macam tadi saya tunjuk leaderboard tu semua kan, actually KIRO buat. Jadi boleh guna KIRO ni untuk membantu tugas-tugas harian jugalah sebenarnya, bukannya limited kepada hackathon ni saja. Okey. Jadi nanti untuk round yang kedua, apa yang berubah adalah kita akan ada workshop studio link yang baru. Sama juga, saya akan bagi workshop studio ikut group. Okay, dalam grouping tu akan ada email dan ada juga, kita akan tambah email lah. I think senang untuk trace. Kita akan ada team dan team tu kena guna workshop studio yang dah kita set dekat sini. So I think macam banyak juga isu yang kata tak boleh login. Kenapa not allow tu sebab dia guna link yang salah. Bukan untuk team dia. Jadi nanti untuk round yang kedua, konsep yang sama. Cuma kita akan bagi file yang lain nanti. Okay. Apa yang berubah juga adalah event ID. Kalau kita ingat event ID untuk workshop studio, saya share lah alang sekejap. Saya share sekejap saya punya screen. Saya nak recap balik macam mana nak guna Excel ni kan, apa yang kita patut tengok kan. So ini adalah Excel file yang kita ada bagilah dekat peserta. So kita tengok kat sini ada banyak channel. Ada 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Setiap channel ada dia punya different group lah. Sebenarnya contoh kalau team logics ni, dia memang kena pakai channel 1. Channel 1 dia akan ada dia punya link dia sendiri kat atas ni. Kan? Okay. Alright. Jadi yang akan berubah adalah event ID. So barat kita akan bagi event ID round 2 lah. Dia punya naming convention dia macam ni. Okay, tapi website ni cuma boleh diakses Jumaat tengah malam lah. 12 tengah malam baru boleh akses. URL yang sama. Nak login KIRO pun URL yang sama. Boleh guna URL ni. Dan masukkan email yang you all daftarkan bersama ni lah dengan POLYCC competition ni. Workshop studio akan lain. Okay, so dua benda yang berbeza adalah workshop studio link dengan event ID yang berbeza. Yang lain memang sama. You all apa login KIRO memang boleh guna balik sahaja. Tak perlu nak sign in, sign out balik.
Portal AI Lead kan sama juga?
Sama. AI Lead ni sama, portal dia. Okay. Tapi sama juga konsep dia. Kita kena login dalam workshop studio ni dulu dan kita akan ambil dia punya authorization code, event ID dengan account ID kan. Jadi yang beza adalah ni lah, event ID, account ID dengan authorization ID tu bergantung kepada bila kita dah login dalam workshop studio ni nanti.
Masa berbeza jugalah yang untuk AI portal ni. Maksudnya sebab kita
login yang berbeza.
Dia punya authorization ID dengan apa lagi satu ID.
Authorization dengan account ID kan. Okay. So builder ID boleh pakai builder ID yang sama. Tapi untuk account credential tu lain. Account details tu berbeza mengikut the workshop studio yang baru. Okay. Alright. So saya rasa itu sajalah.
Itu sajalah.
Tengok pun dah tak ada soalan sangat dah dekat ni.
Okay. So maybe so peserta jangan putus asa sebab seperti mana yang Cik Reza terangkan, untuk round pertama ni kita multiplier dia adalah satulah, maksudnya masih ada peluang lagi.
Maybe kita flashback last. Kita ulang balik sekali lagi.
Ulang balik.
Sebab
ulang balik.
Sebelum kita tutup lah, kita ulang balik. Okay, untuk round yang pertama, kita punya multiplier score dia adalah times 1. Okay. Dan untuk round yang kedua ni, kita akan ada multiplier times 2. Okay, jadi maksudnya skor dekat round kedua ni adalah 2 kali ganda lebih value daripada round yang pertama. Jadi kalau siapa yang tertinggal round yang pertama, it's okay sebab dia memang actually 10% sahaja daripada total competition kita ni. Okay, so dia akan jadi 10, 20, 30, campur 40 jadi 10 lah. 100%, 10,000. Tapi you all semua baru ketinggalan 10,000. Okay, kalau perform, kita guna skills-skills yang information yang Vincent ada advice tadi, ada possibility yang you all actually boleh buat comeback dan dapat top 5 lah. Okay, ingat juga mungkin ada team yang akan maybe dia tak boleh join salah satu hari ni kan, dan dia flop lah kan. Ada juga possibility macam tu dan you all actually boleh juga buat comeback. Last kita nak bagi tahu juga adalah ini adalah pemenang untuk minggu round yang pertama ni. Okey, tahniah kepada AI Core Politeknik Mersing kumpulan nombor 346. Okey, mendapat skor paling tinggi iaitu 15,000. Okey. So minggu depan akan ada lain. Pemenang dia mesti lainnya. Kita akan pantau tengok siapa yang always dapat top 5 ni kan. Most probably akan lain sebab apa? Sebab kalau tengok dekat sini dia punya perbezaan sangatlah sedikit. Okay. Kalau saya rasa kalau ambil input daripada Vincent punya tips tadi tu kan, ubah dia punya token tu ke kan, token output tu actually dah make a difference. Okay. Team maybe POLYCC ni boleh dapat nombor yang lebih tinggi kalau dia fine tune sikit-sikit. Right? So kita ini adalah result dia, so jangan putus asa, teruskan daftar KIRO, login KIRO, daftar dalam permainan ni. Kita akan bagi details untuk round kedua ni sebelum Jumaat lah, mungkin Khamis petang kita akan bagi information dan you all boleh start access round yang kedua Jumaat tengah malam. Dan of course round kedua ni memang kita akan ada perbezaan lah. Format permainan sama. Okay, masuk AI League, configure tools, configure agent, system problem semua sama. Cuma challenges tu berbeza, map tu berbeza. Kalau sebelum ni maybe map kita ada 8 darat 8 for example. Untuk next round kita boleh ada map yang lebih besar, ada map yang lebih kecil ke, ataupun map yang dia punya maze tu bentuk lain ke. Jadi kita kena ubah kita punya path finding punya tools tu mengikut round yang kedua. Okay. Okay, so kalau kita dah ubah kita punya lambda function, for example macam path fine tuning tu, actually kita nak test paling mudah kalau kita nak test, actually kita test waktu come back to the play game tu lah. Klik play game button dan kita boleh run kita punya agent tu. Tapi actually kita boleh juga suruh KIRO install KIRO CLI dekat dalam tools code editor kita tu, dan actually dia boleh run and test call the function directly jugalah sebenarnya. So itu salah satu tips macam mana kalau kita nak test kita punya lambda function. Okay. Dan of course I think I akan ulang juga untuk round kedua ni, nanti kalau you masuk you actually tengok, oh you punya path finding strategy hari tu dah hilang ataupun dia dah reset to default. So yang tu memang nature dia. Setiap kali round memang you all akan start dengan satu baseline yang sama. Setiap orang akan sama je dia punya baseline. Yang berbeza adalah pengalaman kita. Kita dah biasa main round yang pertama hari tu, kita tahu apa yang nak buat kat round yang kedua. Jadi team yang baru start dengan round yang pertama, maybe first time dia main round yang kedua sebab dia miss out kan, dia tertinggal round yang pertama, dia kena spend masa lebih sikit lah untuk belajar game ni. Okay. Dan ada advantage kepada team yang dah start round yang pertama hari tu, minggu semalam. Okay, dia boleh just carry balik knowledge tu lah.
Okay, maksudnya kita minggu depan kita akan ada map baru.
Minggu ni lah.
Minggu ni lah. Minggu ni, this coming Friday. Yang dah lepas tu lepas lah.
Lepas jangan dikenang.
Jangan dikenang lagi. Jangan ingat lagi apa sebab ada soalan kata kena ingat balik ke yang event ID, authorization ID.
Tak payah.
So kita
bagi baru.
This Friday kita akan dapat map baru. So kita akan dapat workshop studio dengan ID yang baru. So kita kena log in lah untuk portal AI League kita punya gelanggang. So saya rasa itu sajalah kita pada pagi ni. Thank you for Vincent for being with us and answering all the question. Thank you for supporting JPKK POLYCC Agentic AI League. Thank you Vincent. And also to my Mr. Reza. Ya, terima kasih. Dah 3 hari rasa 3 hari
berturut-turut. Weekend ni kita jadi customer support lah.
Saya pun rasa betul lah, suara pun dah hilang ni. Batuk je. Okey, jadi pada peserta POLYCC Agentic AI League 2026, jangan putus asa, kita masih ada peluang. Jadi teruskan usaha anda untuk dapat hadiah yang lumayan. Ingat tu sebagai motivasi kita lah. Okey, jadi kalau segala masalah, isu yang tu boleh tanya dalam grup chat, iaitu di WhatsApp dan juga di Telegram lah. Dan saya, Encik Reza dan beberapa tim yang lain akan bantu dan cuba supaya at least kita boleh log in KIRO, boleh log in workshop studio dan play the game lah. Okey, saya rasa itu saja daripada saya. Assalamualaikum, bye.
Bye.